I don't really know where to start. I've typed and deleted this so many times that my keyboard feels warm. Maybe I just need to say it straight. I'm 26 years old, and until 2 weeks ago, I thought I was going to marry my girlfriend of 5 years. I was pricing rings. I had talked to her dad. I had written a letter to read to her during the proposal. I knew how I wanted to do it, on the dock behind her grandma's cabin where she first told me she loved me, during that quiet pink hour just before sunset. Instead, I'm sitting alone in a motel off the interstate, halfway between the life I thought I had and the one I'm trying to survive now. This isn't a revenge story. It's not a woe is me thing either. I guess I just need to say this somewhere before it eats me from the inside out. Her name's Rachel. She's 25. We met at university. She was the kind of girl you notice twice in a room. Not because she was loud or overly beautiful or anything, she just had this gravity. People moved toward her without realizing it. I did. We were both waiting in line at a shitty little coffee cart outside the library. She was reading The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and I made some dumb comment about how everyone who reads that book seems a little dangerous. She smiled. Maybe I am. We hit it off immediately. That kind of instant connection that feels rare enough to believe in fate. We talked for an hour on that bench and skipped our lectures. She liked indie films and long walks at night. She was a philosophy minor. She had this soft, sarcastic way of speaking that made everything feel ironic and meaningful at the same time. For a long time, we were good. I mean, really good. That first year was magic. Midnight drives to nowhere, shared playlists, sleeping in on Saturdays, tangled up under 2 warm blankets. We fought like anyone else, but we always found our way back. There was this invisible thread between us. The second year, we moved in together. That's when I started noticing little things. She got quieter, distant sometimes, but life got busy. She was juggling a tough internship, and I was working 2 part-time jobs while trying to finish my degree. I chalked it up to stress. She'd come home exhausted, and I'd cook dinner, and we'd just exist together on the couch, and somehow that felt okay. The third year, we got a dog. Daisy, a goofy rescue mutt with too much energy and not enough sense. Rachel picked her out, said she wanted to build a life with me. I cried the first night we brought her home. I didn't tell her why, but it was because I really believed in that moment, that we were building something that would last. There were beautiful days. One time we drove 8 hours to see a meteor shower in the desert. We camped out, wrapped in cheap sleeping bags, and I remember she reached for my hand and whispered, "Promise we'll never stop trying." I said, "I promise." Year 4 is when things shifted. She started staying late at work more often. There were more girls' nights, more time with her phone flipped face down. She still kissed me goodnight, but there was something robotic in it, like muscle memory, not love. I asked her once, "Are we okay?" She looked up from her tea and said, "Why wouldn't we be?" That's when I started gaslighting myself, telling myself I was being paranoid, that this was just the ebb and flow of a long-term relationship. Everyone gets bored, everyone has quiet periods, right? But then one night, I'll never forget this, I woke up at 2 a.m. and she wasn't in bed. I got up, thinking maybe she'd fallen asleep on the couch, but she wasn't there either. I checked the door, gone. She came back 30 minutes later, smelling like cigarettes. She doesn't smoke. I asked where she'd been, and she said she couldn't sleep, so she went for a walk. Said she needed space to clear her head. My gut twisted. I didn't believe her, but I didn't press it. I wanted to believe her. She cried a lot after that, in the bathroom, in the car. I could hear her sometimes when she thought I was asleep. And I didn't know what to do. I just held her when she let me and gave her space when she didn't. Then came the pregnancy. She told me she was late, that she'd taken a test. Positive. I froze. I didn't think I was ready, but I looked at her, and she looked terrified, and I said, "We'll figure it out. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." She nodded, but her eyes were blank. We decided to keep it, told our parents. Everyone was cautiously happy. I started picking up more hours at work. I was scared, yeah, but I was also excited. A baby, a piece of us. But she kept pulling away, wouldn't let me touch her belly, wouldn't talk about names. She said she was just overwhelmed, hormonal. Then the baby came, a little boy, James. He was beautiful, looked nothing like me, but babies are weird like that. I loved him instantly, and she didn't. She seemed disconnected, cold. Postpartum depression, we thought. Maybe. But something was off. And then, here's where it all broke open. About 6 weeks ago, I was putting away laundry, and I knocked over one of her boxes from the closet. Letters spilled out, handwritten, folded neatly. I shouldn't have read them, but I did. They were from someone named Eli, dozens of them, going back over a year. They were in love. They had been seeing each other, while we were still together, while she was pregnant. And then I found the letter. I can't do it. He thinks the baby is his. I feel sick about it. But I can't destroy him like that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I sat there for an hour, just holding that piece of paper. My entire body went cold. I felt like I left myself, dissociated. Everything I had believed for 5 years was suddenly fiction. I confronted her that night. I didn't yell. I didn't even cry. I just asked, "Is he mine?" She stared at me for a long time, then whispered, "I don't know." I left, packed a bag, took Daisy, and left. And I haven't gone back. She's called, texted, begged, said she was confused, that it was over with him, that she panicked, that it didn't mean anything. But the thing is, it meant everything. It meant everything I built was a lie. And James? I don't know. I don't know if he's mine. I don't even know if I want to find out. Is that horrible? I love that kid. I fed him, changed him, rocked him to sleep. But now even my memories feel like a movie someone else lived. Some nights I replay everything in my head, try to pinpoint the moment it all broke, try to figure out how I missed it. Was it the night she said she was working late and came home with smeared lipstick? Was it when she cried during our anniversary dinner and said it was because she was so happy it scared her? I don't know. I feel like a ghost in my own life, like I lived in someone else's dream, and I just woke up in a nightmare. I don't know what to do next. I don't know if I should demand a paternity test. I don't know if I should ever speak to her again. I don't know how to forgive her or myself. I gave her 5 years, my loyalty, my trust, my heart, and she gave me a stranger's child. And the worst part? Sometimes I still miss her. Not her, I guess, but the version of her that loved me back. The version that maybe never existed. Anyway, thanks for reading. I just needed someone to know, even if it's strangers on the internet. It's been about 6 weeks since I wrote the first post. I didn't plan on updating. I thought that chapter was over, or at least sealed off in some emotional quarantine in my brain. But some things refuse to stay buried. I'll start here. I got the paternity test. I hadn't planned to. I told myself it didn't matter, that James wasn't mine, couldn't be mine, not emotionally, not biologically, not anymore. I told myself it would only hurt more to know for sure, but then my mum asked gently, "Don't you think you deserve to know?" And I realised that somewhere under the grief and betrayal I was still hoping. I ordered the test, the at-home kind, took the samples, mailed it in, waited. Those 10 days were a kind of slow death. Every time my phone buzzed, I felt my stomach flip. And then I'd remember the way he used to wrap his fingers around mine while I fed him, how he'd fall asleep on my chest, breathing those tiny, perfect breaths. I got the email last Thursday. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. I didn't cry. I just stared at the screen for a long time. It felt like the final nail, not in a coffin, because what died wasn't just a person or a relationship. It was a future. The version of me that believed, that hoped. I called Rachel. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed to hear her voice. She picked up on the second ring. "Hello?" "It's not mine," I said. Silence. "I know," she whispered. Those 2 words broke something in me I didn't know was still holding on. "You knew the whole time?" Another long pause. "I suspected, but I didn't want to lose you." I laughed. I couldn't help it. One of those bitter, tired laughs that comes from too many nights without sleep. "You didn't want to lose me, so you lied to me about my child." "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said. "I never stopped loving you." And I said something I never thought I'd say. "You don't get to say that anymore." I hung up, blocked her number, deleted every photo, every text thread. I even boxed up the old love letters and burned them in the fire pit behind my brother's house. Dramatic, maybe, but I needed to see them disappear. Needed something symbolic, something final. Here's where it gets messier. 2 days later, Eli messaged me on Instagram. Yeah, him. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity, anger, whatever, you name it, won. The message was short. "I didn't know she told you it might be yours. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I stared at it for a full hour. Then I messaged back, "What exactly didn't you mean to happen? Sleeping with her or getting her pregnant?" His reply was longer. He said they had a thing that started emotionally at first. Office flirting, late-night texts, the usual story. She'd tell him how our relationship had gotten stale, how she felt unloved, unsure, trapped. That part killed me, because I remember making her pancakes every Sunday, leaving notes in her lunch, trying so goddamn hard to show her she mattered. But I guess love only counts if it's received, and I guess she stopped receiving it a long time ago. Eli said he pulled away when she told him she was pregnant. He said he never wanted to be a father, never even wanted to be with her. He thought it was a fling, that she was going to leave me eventually and they'd fade apart. Then James was born, and suddenly it was all too real. He begged me not to hate the baby. And here's the thing, I don't. I hate the situation. I hate the lies. I hate what it did to me. But James, he's just a baby, an innocent life in the wreckage of other people's choices. I asked if he was going to step up, if he planned to be in James's life. He left me on read. So I guess that answers that. I've been thinking a lot about what love is, what it means to give 5 years of your life to someone. I used to think love was loyalty, that if you stayed, if you tried hard enough, it would work out. But now I think love is only part of it. It's honesty, it's showing up, it's being real, even when it's ugly. And Rachel stopped doing that a long time ago. I've started therapy, it's brutal. Sitting in that chair, peeling back layers I didn't even know existed. But it's helping, a little. I don't cry as often. I can sleep most nights now. I even started running again. 5 miles every morning, just to remind myself that my body can still carry me through something. The other day, I passed a father and his toddler at the park. The kid had the same goofy walk James had when he first started crawling. For a second, I had to sit down, just to catch my breath. Because it still hurts, but I'm surviving. I don't know if I'll ever fall in love again. Right now, the thought of trusting someone that deeply feels impossible, but I'm rebuilding, brick by brick, day by day. And maybe someday I'll find someone who doesn't need to be convinced to stay. Until then, I'm just trying to be okay with my own company. Thanks for listening. Again. And if you're going through something similar, please, for the love of God, know it's not your fault. Loving someone isn't a weakness. Trusting them wasn't a mistake. But staying when they stop loving you back, that's the part I'm still forgiving myself for. 1 year later, the truth has edges, but so does healing. Hey, strangers! It's been almost a year. A full year since I found out the boy I thought was my son wasn't. A year since I packed a single duffel bag, took the dog, and left behind 5 years of memories like a ghost walking out of his own life. I almost didn't post again, but I think I owe it to myself and weirdly to all of you who listened when I couldn't talk to anyone else. A lot can change in a year. Some things stay broken, some things bend, some things you carry with you, like a scar. You don't forget it's there, but it doesn't bleed anymore. First, the hard stuff. I haven't spoken to Rachel since the day she whispered, "I knew." That was our last real conversation. She emailed me once in December, around Christmas, said she hoped I was doing okay, that James had his first words, dog, of course, and she thought I'd want to know. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. It's still sitting in my inbox, unread. A message from a past life. I think about James more often than I expected. Not in a fantasy way, not like I want to raise him, but in this quiet ache, like a dream I almost lived. There's a part of me that still loves him, not because of biology, not because I was his dad for a few blurry months, but because I wanted him. I was ready to love him. That feeling doesn't disappear just because the facts change. I sometimes wonder what he'll think when he's older, what version of the truth he'll hear, whether he'll look me up someday and ask, "Did you ever love me?" And I hope I'll have the strength to say, "Yes, for as long as I thought you were mine, and maybe even after." Therapy saved me. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. I walked into my first session angry, hollow, defensive, like a dog who'd been hit too many times and couldn't tell the difference between a hand and a fist. My therapist, Jordan, didn't coddle me. He asked hard questions. The one that gutted me the most. If it had been you who cheated, who lied, would you want forgiveness? I said no. I said I couldn't imagine doing that. And then he said, "Then stop trying to understand her through your own rules. She wasn't playing your game." That hit me like a truck. I kept trying to make sense of her actions using my logic, my values. But her choices didn't come from my heart, they came from hers. And that's what finally allowed me to stop reliving it like a crime scene, trying to piece together motives and missteps. Some people hurt you not because they're evil, but because they're lost, and lost people make terrible maps for love. And now, the good stuff. I met someone, her name's Lena. Before you roll your eyes, this isn't a fairy tale ending. She didn't come in and fix me. I wasn't looking to be fixed. We met at a bookstore. She was arguing with the cashier about whether Jane Eyre or Rebecca was the better Gothic novel. I laughed. She rolled her eyes. We started talking. She's real, grounded, the kind of person who doesn't need to fill the silence. We took it slow. She knows everything. I told her the story in pieces, like feeding broken glass through a funnel, and she held it all without flinching. She doesn't try to replace anything. She doesn't ask me to forget. But she's helped me build something new, something quiet and good. I told her once that I felt like a house that had burned down, and she said, "Then we'll plant a garden in the ashes." I think I love her. No, I know I do. And this time, I'm not rushing to prove it with rings or timelines or promises shouted into the dark. This time, I'm just showing up, every day, as I am. And that feels like enough. So what's the takeaway? Here's what I know now after everything. Love isn't a contract, it's a choice. Every day, every moment. You can be loyal, devoted, kind, and still be betrayed. It's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of someone else's wound. Closure doesn't come with an apology. Sometimes it's the moment you stop needing one. And healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel reborn, others you'll feel like a reopened scar. But you keep walking, you keep showing up, you water the ashes. And one day you look up and realize something new is growing where something else once died. So yeah, I gave her 5 years, but I'm finally giving myself what I gave her: love, patience, a chance. Thanks for listening. And to anyone out there holding the pieces of a broken story, just know this: you are not the worst thing someone did to you. You're the person still standing after the storm. That's your story now, and it's yours to write. I thought I'd forgotten her until I saw him again. I wasn't going to write this. I thought the story was over. Maybe it was, but sometimes stories don't end, they echo. And sometimes they echo when you least expect it. Last weekend I saw him, James, at the farmer's market, of all places. I was there with Lena. We were picking out tomatoes. She was arguing with a vendor about which ones were best for sauce, and I was half listening, half scanning for cold brew when I saw this little boy with curly hair toddling toward the flower stand, and my heart just stopped because it was him. I knew before I knew. Rachel was there, crouched beside him, helping him point at sunflowers. She looked older, not in a bad way, just a little more worn, like life had finally started telling her the truth she'd avoided for so long. I hadn't seen her in 2 years, not since the call, not since the test. She looked up, our eyes met, and for a second, the world froze in this strange quiet, like the seconds right before a car crash or a kiss, like maybe it could all go differently this time. Then James turned around. He didn't recognize me, of course. I was just some guy holding tomatoes. But he smiled, and I felt something twist in my ribs that I didn't have words for. Not grief, not anger, something older than both. He ran back to her, holding a flower like a trophy. She scooped him up and whispered something in his ear. He nodded. Then she looked back at me, and she smiled, not wide, not apologetic, just soft, real. It said, "I remember," and mine said, "Me too." We didn't speak. Lena didn't notice, thank God. I don't think I could have explained it in the moment. I still don't know if I can now. The rest of the day felt a little foggy. Lena knew something was off, but she didn't push. That's the thing about love the second time around. It doesn't chase pain. It waits for you to come home to yourself. That night, I sat out on the porch with a whiskey and tried to figure out what I was feeling. Was it regret? I don't regret leaving. I don't regret walking away from a love that became a lie. But I do mourn the version of me that once believed so fiercely and forever. The man who memorized lullabies and Googled how to swaddle a newborn. The man who looked at that baby and felt with all his soul, "This is mine." Even if it wasn't. Sometimes I wonder if James will ever ask about me, if Rachel will tell him anything, if she'll say there was once a man who would have moved mountains for him just because he wanted to, no blood required. And if he ever does find out, years from now, maybe when he's tall and angry and looking for answers, I hope he knows this. I didn't walk away from him. I walked away from being a ghost in someone else's lie. Life's quiet now, and beautiful in a way I didn't expect. Lena and I moved in together in February. We got a dog, a mutt named June, who thinks she owns the sun. I built raised garden beds in the backyard, tomatoes, basil, mint. Little things that remind me life keeps growing, even after frost. Some nights I still dream of that old apartment, of the way Rachel used to hum when she cooked, of James laughing in the tub, splashing water like it was the best invention in the universe. But I wake up to Lena's breath on my shoulder, to June curled up at my feet, to a home built not on promises, but on presence. And that's enough. Maybe that's all any of us ever really get. Not the story we planned, but the chance to begin again, with eyes wide open. Thanks for walking this road with me. I think finally I've reached the last page, and I'm ready to close the book, but I'll keep the good chapters, always. He found me. It's been 7 years since I held him, 3 since I saw him at the farmer's market, and last week he knocked on my door. I didn't know who he was at first. He was taller than I expected, maybe 5'5" already, thin as a rail, with that same wild mess of curls he had as a baby. There was a woman behind him, probably Rachel's friend or sister. She waited by the car, engine running. He was holding a manila envelope. "Are you Daniel?" he asked. I nodded, heart already thudding. "I'm James." Just like that. No hesitation, no build-up. Just a kid telling a man, "I know who you are." He looked me in the eye, and suddenly I saw him. Not just the boy I once held, but the man he might become. Brave, director, soft underneath. My mum said you used to live with us. When I was a baby, he added, like it was ancient history. I couldn't breathe. She said you thought you were my dad for a while. He handed me the envelope. Inside, a drawing. It was of a house, crude crayon lines, big front porch, 2 stick figures in front, one small, one tall, a dog, a garden. I drew this, he said, because I wanted to know if you remembered me. I didn't even realize I was crying until he shifted awkwardly and said, "It's okay if you don't. I just wanted to know if you ever missed me." And I said, without thinking, "Every day." His eyes welled up, but he didn't cry. He just stood there, fidgeting with the hem of his shirt like the whole world was too big for his chest. I invited him in. He didn't come. "I can't stay," he said. "I'm not supposed to talk to you, but I made Mum promise I could give you this." I asked gently, "Did she tell you why we stopped talking?" He nodded. "She said she lied, a lot, and that it wasn't your fault." I sat down on the porch step because my knees were giving out. "I don't blame you," he said. "I don't blame you either," I told him. "I never did." He smiled then, awkward, crooked, so much like her it almost broke me. "She said you taught me how to laugh, that I used to fall asleep on your chest, that you called me Bean for a while." I laughed, choking on it. "You were the size of a loaf of bread, couldn't think of anything else." He looked at me for a long second, like he was memorizing something. "I just wanted to see who you were," he said finally, "because even if it didn't end the way it was supposed to, you were the first person who loved me, and I think that counts." And then, before I could say anything else, he ran back to the car. I sat on the porch with the drawing for a long time, long after the car had gone. Lena found me there, eyes red, envelope open in my lap. She didn't ask what happened. She just sat beside me, leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You okay?" I told her the truth. "I don't know, but I think I needed that. There are some people you only get to love for a little while. They pass through you like music, brief, bright, unforgettable. James was never mine by blood. He's not mine now by law. But for a flicker of time, when the world was smaller and the nights were longer, I was his, and he was mine. And that mattered. It still does. So this is it. Not a clean ending, not a sad one either. Just a door that once closed, cracking open just enough to let the light back in. Wherever he goes, whatever he becomes, I'll be cheering. Quietly, always. Thanks for staying with me. Some stories don't end. They echo. And this one? This one's still humming in my chest, forever and gently. Dad-ish once. Daniel.